Hi, I'm Robbie. Welcome to Fresh from the Cuisina. Today I'm going to show you 3 ways to cook katsu. Katsu refers to either pork or chicken cutlet. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make Japanese tonkatsu, katsudon, and a katsu burger. This is Katsu 3 Ways. Here we have a piece of pork tenderloin. Traditionally, pork sirloin or tenderloin is used for tonkatsu. Now, you want your meat to be cut into thin, wide, and uniform slices. To do that, cut your tenderloin on an angle to yield slices like this. Here's a tip. Start on the tapered end of the tenderloin so you will have an easier time estimating where to cut. Now do that for the rest of the meat. For the trimmings, keep it and use it for soups or stir fries. The tenderloin I had gave me 5 cutlets. As you can see, they're still a little thick, so get yourself one of these. Any Ziploc bag would do, or even just plastic wrap. I used a recycled one. Now don't at me, I wash them after every use and use them a max of 3 times. Shout out to Bradley Oni for this tip. Anyway, get your knife and slice the sides of the bag open, like this. Then place your cutlets on it and cover them with the other end of the bag. Now, give them a nice pat and caress them. Then smack the shit out of them! Flatten them out to create thinner and more even cutlets, around a centimeter thin. This is to allow for faster and easier cooking, which ultimately lead to more tender katsu. Now salt and pepper these bad boys. Here's another tip. Put plastic wrap on your pepper mill so it won't get contaminated with meat juices or anything. Keep that bad boy clean. So now, salt the cutlets liberally. If you're using iodized salt or table salt, hold back a little. I used rock salt simply because kosher salt isn't available where I'm at. And the granules are bigger, which are easier to control. Also, it's a lot less likely to oversalt these with rock salt. Then, grind some pepper on them and pat them so the seasoning sticks. Flip and do the same to the other side. Also, see how helpful that plastic wrap is? Now, preferably, you salt these 40 minutes to a few hours ahead of cooking, even overnight. This helps season the meat, keep it moister and firmer but tender, ultimately leading to delicious and juicy meat. Now comes breading. Use flour, breadcrumbs, and eggs for breading. Set 3 containers, 1 for each. Now use equal parts flour and breadcrumbs, just estimate. Then add 2 eggs on a dish and a splash of mirin. Scramble that, it doesn't have to be perfect, just scrambled. Now, here's panko breadcrumbs. Emphasis on panko. You can use regular ones. Panko just turns out crispier and tastier. Keep a dry hand and a wet hand. Wet hand gets the meat and drops it in on one side of the flour. Dry hand picks up flour and dumps it on the meat, and then pat it and flip it. Do the same on the other side. Then, dry hand places meat and eggs, and wet hand flips and covers that thing with egg. Wet hand places meat on breadcrumbs on one side, and then dry hand picks up breadcrumbs and dumps it on the meat, and then presses the meat. Pressing the meat allows the breadcrumbs to adhere more. Then, flip it. Do the same on the other side. See how you don't have breaded fingers? Remember, you're cooking the meat, not your fingers. Repeat for all of your cutlets. Now you have some beautifully breaded cutlets. Set that aside and make your coleslaw and sauce. Get your cabbage, cut up half, or do the whole thing, whatever you need. As Ninong Rai says it, kaya mo na yan, malaki ka na. Cut the core out, then cut the cabbage thin as possible.
Be careful, guys. Now get yourself a colander and drop all of that cabbage in there. Now, here's where I screwed up. Wash your cabbages, people, and then salt them. Anyway, salt them, just enough to season them. This wrings out excess moisture from the cabbage and preserves that crunch, and seasons them as well. Aid that with a little massage. We all have rough days. Imagine getting sliced thinly and salted. The least you could do is massage your cabbage. Set that aside to let the excess water drain. Now make your dressing. Take about half a cup of mayo, about half to 3/4 of a teaspoon of mirin, about half a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, and a teaspoon or two of sugar. Now slice open that mayo and close it, otherwise your mother will get mad. Whisk that mayo to loosen it up. I don't know if it works, I just do it. Then add mirin, ACV, and sugar. Then season to taste with salt and pepper. Add some pepper, guys. I love me some pepper. Now, let's make a quick katsu sauce. Get half a cup of ketchup. I use the sweet blend kind. Add that to the saucepan. Add a tablespoon of mirin. Same amount of worcestershire sauce. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Nobody does. Then add some thyme and mustard seed and a dash of soy sauce. Bring that to the stove and simmer and mix around for 2 minutes. Just wait until it starts bubbling, then you're done, and then set that aside. Let's get to cooking. Retrieve your breaded cutlets and set a 10 to 13-inch skillet on medium heat. Add enough oil to the pan to cover the bottom of it. Wait for it to heat up around roughly 350 Fahrenheit or 175 Celsius. To test, you could add, a stray piece of breadcrumb and see if it bubbles up. Once your oil is up to temp, get your cutlets and lay away from you. Place them into the pan, wait for 1 to 2 minutes, and flip. Then wait another 2 to 3 minutes. You can flip occasionally. Kaya mo na yan. However, don't forget about it, okay? As you can see, I burnt that shit up. Anyway, remove from the pan and put it on a wire rack set in a rimmed baking sheet. Or just put it on a plate lined with kitchen towels or paper towels, whatever. And then skim the bits of breadcrumbs and add more oil and add in 2 new cutlets. And then burn them again. Fuck. Let's try this again. Add in oil, heat it up, place cutlets, and pay attention to them. After 1 to 2 minutes, flip them. And then finally, you didn't burn them. It's golden brown and crispy. Yes. Now, after letting them rest for around 5 to 10 minutes, get your cutting board. Cut your cutlets at half-inch intervals. However, don't cut the whole width. Leave a tiny bit at the end uncut, so it will still hold itself. But don't worry if you do. I sometimes still do cut it all the way through. Now, get yourself a nice plate. Get some cooked rice, set it on one half of the plate, and make it nice. Then get 2 pieces of katsu, lay it on the pile of fluffy rice, like so. Add your coleslaw, put it on the side, drizzle your sauce, and then grind some coarse black pepper on that, the coleslaw, and the rice. Add a little bit of green onions for garnish, and voila! Tonkatsu topped with a tangy savory sauce, served with a refreshing zingy coleslaw and white rice. Now, you've got some leftover katsu, right? Yes, including the ones you burned. The Japanese thought of a way to make use of leftover katsu, and that's Katsudon. Now get a small pan. If you have a donburi pan, use it. If you don't, just use a small pan or even a small wok like this, which most Filipino households have. So put that pan on medium-low heat, pour in a cup of water, and yes, that pan was way too hot. I gotta remind myself to make more mistakes. Anyway, if you have this, it's dashi in the form of pellets. Dashi is a Japanese stock made out of bonito and kelp. If you don't have this, just use chicken stock seasoned with soy sauce. It won't taste the same, but it works. Now wait for your water to lightly simmer and add in a teaspoon of those dashi pellets and mix to dissolve. Just wait for it to dissolve. Pour that into a bowl, then pour in a third of that dashi broth, or just leave it in the pan instead of pouring all of it into the bowl. Then add in a tablespoon of sake. But I don't have that, so I'm going to use rice wine. This is rice wine made in the Philippines. You can also use dry sherry or fundador, with the blue letterings, since that kind of fundador was stored in sherry-flavored barrels. I tried it and it works. Then add in a tablespoon and a teaspoon of mirin. You can use alternatively a 3-to-1 water-sugar mixture with a splash of vinegar as a substitute for mirin. Then add in a tablespoon of soy sauce. Mix it and taste it and decide how sweet you want it to be. I personally add in a teaspoon of sugar, or I use half a red onion. Red onion gives it a nice sweet, alum-y flavor. Or you can use both, depends on you. Then taste it for seasoning. Add in salt to adjust. Let it simmer on very low heat. While that is going on, chop up some green onions. Then beat 2 eggs and then add in your sliced up green onions as much as you want. Okay, mix that up and then drop it on top of your katsu and broth. Evenly spread that on the pan and let it simmer and steam. You can cover it if you want. After around 3 to 5 minutes, the egg looks set and it's done. It's okay if it looks runny. Now get yourself a nice looking bowl. Fill it with steaming white rice. Then top it with your katsudon. Keep that bowl full and snug. Garnish it with some green onions and drizzle with some soy sauce. And then you're done. You've got warm, salty, sweet, savory, eggy meat served on top of some steaming white rice. If that doesn't warm up your soul, I don't know what will. Now, if you want a tasty and filling way to make use of leftover katsu, make a KatsuBurger. Take your burger bun, preferably homemade, and slice it up. I mean, look at that crumb and how fluffy that is. So now, let's toast it. Use the same pan you used to fry the katsu in, or a new pan if you're actually using leftover katsu. Discard most of the oil and toast your buns. Always toast your buns. Untoasted buns are a mortal sin. Now gather your tonkatsu, coleslaw, and sauce, the same ones you use for tonkatsu. Here's a tip, always make extra and keep that in the fridge. Now, spread that sauce on both buns, then layer katsu, preferably 2 with some sauce in between them. Top that with coleslaw, add some ground black pepper, and your sauce top bun. And now, crown that bad boy. And voila! KatsuBurger. Now excuse me as I snap my fingers away as I taste that katsudon and tonkatsu. And finally, let's see the cross section of my crown jewel. I mean, look at that. And yeah, that's how you make katsu 3 ways. Like, comment, tell us what you want to see next. If you want to know how to make that homemade burger bun, tell us. Para naman ma-renew kami for another season. So that is it. This was Fresh from the Cuisina.